The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue Kalinsky. Sue Ballou, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm refreshed. I came back from a lovely camping trip in Temecula.
Very nice.
Have you ever been to Temecula?
I have not, but I hear it's a good thing. I was there once. I looked at a movie theater out there.
Ah, yeah. It's really, really beautiful. Wine country. We took a hike one day, and if you just like drop me somewhere blindfolded and I opened my eyes, I would think I was in Ireland.
Really?
Really, just green, lush mountains, and then, you look off to the side and you see all these beautiful vineyards. It's real pretty. And the campground is gorgeous.
I want to let everybody know Michael Urie is coming up. He is one of the stars of Shrinking on Apple Plus. So did you hit any wineries? Did you do any of that stuff?
I didn't go to any wineries, but we drank wine at the campground.
You drank wine.
But the greatest thing that they had at this campsite, which I'd never seen before, first of all, a ton of golf carts, and people pimped out their carts like with lights and,
Cool.
Giant one. Yeah. And then you can rent them also, but you have to reserve those in advance. So I look over at one point and I see this woman drive by, and it's a Mai Tai golf cart.
Meaning?
She's making Mai Tais and delivering them to people at their sites. You can hail her like the ice cream man.
What a very cool Now, did it cost money to get a Mai Tai?
Yeah. It cost money.
Yeah. How much was a Mai Tai?
I don't know.
A golf cart.
Yeah. I'm sure it was more expensive than if it was from a Mai Tai stand.
Yeah, exactly. I want to let everybody know we're on Spotify and Apple now. Plus, we are on YouTube. And so because we're on YouTube, and a lot of people, we've got this great big ESPN event coming up on June the 10th. We all go crazy in terms of what we wear. So I'm going to show it for the YouTube audience. Nobody else has seen this. This is top secret. This is my tuxedo for the Mandy Awards, which are coming up June the 10th. So I'm going to show, there it is right here. This is the tux.
Now, did you have this specially made?
No, I did not have it especially made. I did find it, believe it or not, on some website called Shinesty that makes crazy tuxedos. And that's what so without giving anything away, what do you think?
It's colorful.
That's the basic idea.
It's nice. I mean, it's out there. I think it's attention getting, and
yep.
I think it's safe to say nobody else will be wearing that tuxedo.
Yeah, how embarrassing would that be if somebody else wore that tuxedo? That would be crazy. So that's coming up June the 10th. We're super excited about it. Mom and not stepdad Leo go to that thing, and we all give ourselves awards, and it's a really fun night. So there's a sneak preview of what I'm wearing, only for people watching the YouTube show. So we both watched the finale of Succession. What was your takeaway?
It couldn't have ended any more perfectly than it did. I think they all got what they were, what they deserved. And my favorite part was seeing Shiv and Tom in the car at the end.
Yeah.
And Tom just, puts out his hand, and she limply just like dropped it in his it was like, I give basically.
Yeah.
Uncle.
Yeah. Right.
And it was her only way to desperately stay in some sort of, I wouldn't say power, but a power by association,
Yeah, right.
But I just thought it was a brilliant, brilliant ending. And, I was wondering what was going to happen with Kendall, because when he was walking towards the Hudson,
Yes.
and he sat on that bench,
Yep.
and you see the Hudson River, and it kept on making me think about all the water moments throughout the series where, when he was in the pool and you thought, oh, is he dead?
Yep.
Did he have a heart attack?
Then he swam in the ocean, I think, after the Living Plus speech.
Yes. And then when he went into the ocean in Barbados in this episode and went out to the raft, it's like, ooh, what's going to happen to him? Is he going to drown? Are they going to kill him? Because they talked about it. And I was reading that there was a surprise ending that he did after he'd sat there for a while. He actually leapt up on the rail to jump into the water, and his bodyguard Colin grabbed him, and that was all improvised.
Wow.
And Jesse Armstrong decided not to use that because he didn't feel that it was true to his character.
Right.
That he would just let him live in his misery, and not take the easy way out.
Yeah. A few things I loved about the finale. One is after they agreed that Kendall would become the CEO, they were in their mom's kitchen and they're making this drink for a king and they pour it over Kendall's. And I was like, it's like they're little kids again. It's like, here are these little kids who got no love when they were growing up, who grow up to be adolescents in a way. Arrested development. They are little kids. They wanted what they wanted, and here they are playing after they announced that the Kendall is going to be the CEO. The other thing, and you'll love this. So Tom Wamsgaughn is his name, right? That's the guy who wound up becoming the CEO. So Bill Wamsgaughn was a real person. He, back in the 1920s, was the first Major League Baseball player to ever have an unassisted triple play in the World Series. So sure enough, here's Tom Wamsgaughn with basically taking out Shiv and Kendall and Roman. And I'm like, that is too perfect, right? They went back and they chose that name exactly for this reason. It is genius.
Wow. Corporate triple play.
Exactly. A corporate triple play. But I thought, generally speaking, shows, you hope they nail the landing. You hope they stick the landing. I think this one did. I thought this show had everything. I love the fact that Shiv didn't go along with everything, and there's another name, Shiv. She basically shivved her brothers on her way out the door. I just think it becomes a top 5 all-time show for me right out of the box. Absolutely loved it, beginning to end. I would say going to clean up at the Emmy Awards. I would imagine that Kieran Culkin is going to win Best Actor. I thought he had his best year. The way he was crying at the eulogy and all that stuff. I think that Best Actress, I think Shiv is going to win. I think Sarah Snook is going to win for playing Shiv. And I think Best Supporting Actor has got to be Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom Wamsgaughn. He was fantastic in the entire show.
Oh, my God. Those scenes with Shiv when he broke down and we had talked about that one scene where they're lying in bed together and and the way they shot it, like they were perpendicular in the bed. Just the whole demise of their relationship, yet the hanger on part of it too.
Yes.
It's like they both needed each other in some twisted way. They had to be together. And just how hurtful they were with one another.
Oh, terrible. And then Cousin Greg, one of my favorite characters, maybe my favorite character on the show. Has there anybody ever been born with less skill or talent who has risen as far as Cousin Greg did in that company. I mean, he went from, we went back and watched episode 1, and he was dressed in like a dog suit as a theme park character. And he wound up schmoozing with maybe the president of the United States at Logan's funeral, and wound up, he's in good with Tom. He's still going to be part of Waystar Royco.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading on Rap Day, Alan Ruck, when his sign-off speech.
Yes. Oh, which is great.
So he included a Roy family toast.
Yeah.
And he said, "Here's to you and here's to me. The best of friends will always be. But if someday we disagree, fuck off."
That is awesome. That is
great.
Awesome. I love the Alan Ruck has been on the show. I love the Alan Ruck character. I think Connor and the con heads, that was a great, great bit. So congratulations to Jesse Armstrong and that whole cast. Unbelievable show. Stuck the landing. Great, great finish. Couldn't be happier with that. And I'm glad it's going away after 4 seasons. It's better to leave too early than too late.
Yeah. And Jesse Armstrong actually said that he doesn't think he'll ever be able to write anything as good as this show. But I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. So our guest today is a Julliard trained actor who won acclaim for his role on the hit television series Ugly Betty. His latest role is in the Apple Plus comedy Shrinking. Michael Urie joins us. Michael, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Great to see y'all. Thank you for having me.
So I definitely want to talk about Shrinking, which is a blast. But I actually want to ask you this question. I'm fascinated because I wanted to be an actor when I was growing up, and I wanted to go to either Yale or Julliard. You went to Julliard. You're a kid growing up in Plano, Texas. How do you wind up at like the most prestigious acting school in the world?
Well, I had an upperclassman when I was in high school, this guy named Michael Benjamin Washington, who is a phenomenal actor. He's actually on American Auto, a TV show. And he's an amazing actor. He's been on Broadway and a ton of amazing things. And he was, to me, the greatest actor I'd ever seen in person, known personally. He was 1 year ahead of me. And he did, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he did not get into Julliard.
Oh.
So when I heard that, I was like, well, if Michael didn't get in, there's no way that I will ever get in. And I had lousy grades, and I didn't even really think I didn't think I could be an actor. I didn't think that I should try to be an actor. So I ended up going to a community college for 1 year. But I intended to go there for the full 2 years and get my associate's degree and then figure out what I was going to do with my life. And it was with this community college that I took my first trip to New York, this like field studies trip to New York. And the teacher, who I didn't even really know yet, took us we saw 13 Broadway shows in 10 days.
Wow.
We toured NYU. We toured Julliard. I'd never been to New York. I was like, we got off the bus at Port Authority from JFK or LaGuardia, wherever we flew to. And it was like rats and garbage and hot summer stinky. And I was like, I'm home. Like, I'm home. This is it. But at the Julliard tour, when we heard all about what that school's like and what the training is like, he took me aside. This teacher took me aside and said, this has got your name written all over it. You have to audition. And as far as I know, he didn't do that to other people.
Wow.
So I auditioned, really not thinking I would get in because Michael Washington didn't get in. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get in. It's so competitive. But I did. He was right. I got in and I left the community college early, and it was amazing. I have to say the school's not for everybody. Not everyone has a great time there. And sometimes people leave. Back in the day, they used to get kicked out. But it was really good for me. I used the stuff I learned at Julliard all the time in acting jobs.
So 13 shows in 10 days. What was the most memorable?
Probably Ragtime, which was the first show we saw at the very beginning of the trip. And it was the original cast. So it was Audra McDonald and Brian Stokes Mitchell,
yeah.
Maren Maisie and Peter Friedman and Leah Michelle as a little child. She was like a little girl in the show. And it blew my mind because that was a huge show. But I was used to seeing musicals at the Dallas Fair Park Music Hall, which is like the biggest theater you can imagine, like 4,000 seats or something like that. Most Broadway theaters are like, half that size or less. And so here I am seeing this huge musical in a relatively small space compared to what I was used to. And we had good seats, and it just blew my mind. It completely blew my mind. And then when we left, we walked outside and it was still bright. I'd never been in Times Square. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's still light out. But it was, of course, just the lights of
Well,
What was your-
Steve, we saw that show, Steve, when we were doing Radio New York.
Show was good. Although, I got the big announcement at the matinee, the role of Brian Stokes Mitchell will be played by, and I was like, oh, bummer. What a bummer. The guy was great. The guy was great, but I didn't get to see him. Sue, what was your first Broadway musical?
I think it was a chorus line.
Wow.
That's a nice one.
My brother took me for my birthday.
It's a good one. My first one was Jennifer Holliday in Dreamgirls.
Oh my God, these are amazing.
I was like, it was all downhill after that performance. It's all downhill.
Both you guys both saw Michael Bennett shows.
That's right.
Wow, how amazing! And Dreamgirls.
Oh, she was just crazy.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Those are two, like if you're like me and you go down rabbit holes on YouTube watching Tony Awards performances, those two I always watch. The chorus line, which is basically the whole opening number, and Jennifer Holliday singing I am telling you, I'm not going.
I'm actually shooting a documentary about a woman who started the improv with Bud Friedman, who was her husband, and she passed away recently. So a lot of people don't know that she really was the one who came up with the idea. He gets all the credit, but we interviewed Donna McKechnie, who played Cassie. So they met each other doing How to Succeed in Business, which I know you did.
Yes. Oh my God. Wait, Donna was in How to Succeed?
Yes, she was in the chorus.
Wow. This is how it starts. This is how you end up going down these rabbit holes, because it's always like, oh, so and so was with so and so, knew so and so, and she worked with Fosse here, and she worked with Bennett here, and it's all like, it's amazing.
So, what was your in terms of Broadway? You made your debut, I think, in How to Succeed, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was a replacement in the Daniel Radcliffe revival.
So what is your first night on Broadway like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I vividly remember when I first stepped foot on the stage in front of an audience. It was at the end of the opening number, and I just walked on briefly and then walked right off. But I remember being there and standing there and thinking, this is it. Remember this. This is it. This is your Broadway debut. But I was a replacement with Nick Jonas. So Nick Jonas and I were in rehearsal together, just the two of us, for 4 weeks. The two of us and a dance captain, basically, and an associate director teaching us the whole show. And then we had a put-in rehearsal the day of our first show. I think it was that same day. And then we went on, and I remember, like, it was a well-oiled machine when we joined. Everybody else had been doing it for I think a year.
Wow.
So they knew the show backwards and forwards. And the guy who I replaced, so I came in at the end of the opening number, and the guy who I replaced, he was so used to it. By the time he left, he wasn't getting dressed until right before he went on. And so I get there, and it's time, and like I hear the overture start, and I'm like, "Where's my costume? The show started. Where's my costume?" And my dresser was like, "Oh, the guy before you didn't get ready until right before." And I was like, "I need to get ready now. I should be down there. I don't want to miss this. This is my Broadway debut. I don't want to miss the overture." So we figured that out, and I was always there at the very beginning of the show with most of the other cast. But it was a wild night. It was so momentous for me, and I was so scared. So I'd never been in a musical. And here I am in a Broadway musical, my first show on Broadway, my first musical, and I'm in it with all these pros and a pop star. It was thrilling.
So you had the good fortune of as an actor that I think every actor would love to have. When you did Ugly Betty, you were supposed to just do one episode because they were going to have different assistants each show.
Right.
And then they ended up keeping you. When they told you this, what was your reaction? And then you stayed on till the run of the series.
Yeah, I got to be in every episode. And it was that thing that, like when you're learning about the business of show, they tell you will never happen, like, and now I've done it like enough that I've been on enough shows and been a guest star on enough shows that like you always hope, you always think about it. You always think, well, maybe they need me in every episode, or like when you're a series regular and you're talking to a guest star, you're like, oh, I hope you come back, or you should be in every. It's like you just talk about it because we all love this. We love acting. We love doing it. We all want more work. So I was told this won't happen. It won't ever happen. You'll never be a co-star that becomes a guest star that becomes a series regular. It'll just never happen. So I was shocked. I was thrilled. I guess I wasn't entirely surprised because by the end of the pilot, Vanessa Williams, whose assistant I played, was so generous with me, and liked me and included me. She would instruct me where the I didn't know where the cameras really were pointing, and she would say, if you stand here instead of there, you'll be in this shot. And so because of her, I was in it more. She took my ideas. We played. There was all this stuff that wasn't on the page that we came up with. But by the end of the shoot of the pilot, they asked me to be in the cast photo. So I kind of had an idea.
Yeah.
I had a feeling, but I didn't count on anything. I would never, I was like, maybe they'll bring me back once or twice, or maybe they'll bring me back once and then fire me. Maybe I'll get a nice firing episode. But then actually, ironically, my very good friend was and is good friends with America Ferrera's now husband, then boyfriend. And I was doing Shakespeare plays in San Diego in Rep, Othello one night, A Midsummer Night's Dream the next. And my friend came to visit me. My friend, he was my classmate from Julliard. He came to visit me and he was like, hey, I heard from America. Congratulations. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Congratulations on what? And he was like, oh, I heard that the show got picked up and you're going to be in every episode now. And I was like, and that's how I found out. So I got to find out from my really good friend who had the intel. And I called my agent and she was like, yeah, we're hearing this too. We're getting into it. And I was like, yeah, get into it. Go ahead and get into it. Figure this out. But it was a pretty fun way to get good news from your dear friend.
So you played on Ugly Betty, an out gay character, at a time when, this was pre-gay marriage. The world was a very different place. There wasn't as much acceptance towards LGBTQ people then as there was now. Was that an aspect of the success here? Did gay folks reach out to you and say, hey, thanks for doing this, or you're making a difference in my life, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, especially young people. The show, because there was this wonderful relationship between my character and Mark Indelicato's character, Justin, Betty's nephew, who was 11 when we started, but, loved musicals and loved fashion and was, loved the Golden Girls. Like there are all these things that this character loved. And, the audience was reading between the lines, and our friendship started early, mentorship started pretty early where, I would give him advice on the show, and that relationship meant a lot to people. And then I'll never forget the episode where my character's mother came to town, played by Patti LuPone.
Played by Patti LuPone.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Patti frickin' Pone. And she did not know that my character was gay because she was in denial. And over the course of the episode, wonderful, very funny episode where Betty pretends to be my girlfriend to fool my mother, and it all comes to a head. But when that episode aired, I got so many letters and messages on, back then it was MySpace, maybe Facebook, but so many notes and letters, and still to this day, I'll hear from people that say that episode, because Mark comes out to her, and she doesn't accept him. And he's strong anyway. He's able to pick himself up and say, I don't need that. I'm fabulous no matter what. And I'm going to be great. And Betty has his back, and of course his friends and his career. But I mean, I'll never forget a particular email I got from somebody that said, I was watching that show with my mom, and at the end of the episode, she said to me, I hope I hope that if I had a son like that, he would feel comfortable telling me, because I would love him just the same.
Yeah.
And this kid turned to his mom and came out right then and there, and they were great. And it was like, because of the show, they had that opening, it opened the door for people, I guess. And that really meant a lot. I think it was but then I also, I remember getting another message from somebody saying, my dad kicked my brother out of the house for being gay. We sat him down. We begged him to watch Ugly Betty to try to get him to accept it, and it didn't work. So, this was, we're talking about 2007, 8. This is a long time ago now, but hopefully that family came around. I didn't keep in touch with them. Hopefully that dad came around and the son was accepted, but it was needed, and it was useful for some families, and then other families, like, I think, weren't ready or will never be ready.
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be such a wonderful feeling that your art, reaches out to people like that,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Shrinking, because Steve and I were talking before the show, and it's definitely one of our favorite new shows.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
And you talk about, therapy,
Right.
and wondering what effect this show has done for people who need to be in therapy or afraid to be in therapy,
Yes.
I mean, I personally don't have many friends that have never been in therapy, nor do I know many people that have never been in therapy. But I do know a couple of people here and there that were afraid to go into therapy and they were stand-up comics. They were afraid to go into therapy because they thought that if they did, it would take away the edge that made them a great comedian.
Wow. That's so interesting. And I'm sure that if they ended up going, it gave them tons of material.
Yeah, right. Have you been in therapy?
Well, I was in therapy very briefly in college. Not that briefly, but I was in therapy in college for a little while. At Julliard, mostly because it was free and other people were going, and I was under a lot of pressure and stressed out and stuff. But then not again until Shrinking. We were doing Shrinking, and every episode tackles a new mental health issue. And I was like, you know what? I want to get more in touch with this. I was also going through my own thing. I was 40. I think I was 41. I'm now 42. I was like, okay, this seems like midlife-y. Maybe, I'm in a TV show again. It was the first time I was in a TV show in a long time, like a regular part in a TV show in a long time. I was back in LA for the first time in a long time, and I just felt different coming out of the pandemic. And I was going through some stuff. And so it was a good time in my life, but it was a complicated time. And so I was like, I think maybe I should do this. I think I would be more in touch with our show. And I was also like, I think there was an element of, these are a bunch of amazing powerhouses making the show. I'm thinking of Bill Lawrence and Brett Goldstein and Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, and they're all open about their own therapy, being in therapy, and we're talking about it on the set. I'm like, I want to get in on this. I want to know what this I want to have this outlet. And so I started it, and it was terrific. I mean, I'm so glad I did. And I don't know if I'll be in it forever, or I don't know. I don't know how this works. At this point, I can't imagine changing therapists. I hear about people changing therapists.
Oh, yeah. No.
I can't imagine that. It's like, you're going to start all over. She knows me. She knows all my shit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How do I start over? But it's been really cool. It's been really, really interesting. And I think this show, the timing is everything. And I feel like Shrinking, they came up with this show at the exact right time. They must have known. I mean, these people are so brilliant. They must have known something about where we were going as a society, because I feel like the stigma of mental health has only recently really been lifted. I think so many people post-pandemic are treating mental health as vital as physical health.
Yeah.
And especially, like, this show is really about straight white dudes, and there's a bunch. I mean, there's a lot of people in the show, but our main guy is this straight white dude who's dealing with his own stuff, and I think I have a lot of straight male friends, and they've never really been into my work. They've never really like loved things I was on, but they love shrinking. And it's nice. It's the first show I've ever done. I've now worked since shrinking on film sets. It's the first time I've ever been on and on that film, I had crew guys tell me they love shrinking. And I've never had crew people like the crew guys.
Yeah.
You know who I mean when I like,
the key grip and the best boy and all that stuff.
Yeah. Never had those guys tell me they even knew who I was. They love shrinking. And they've never been like, saw you on Broadway. It's never been quite that, maybe in the makeup trailer, but not not in the camera department. And it's been pretty cool to see like, grown burly men in touch with their feelings.
Yeah. So that stigma that goes along with mental health. I was diagnosed as bipolar 20 years ago. So I've been seeing my shrink for a long time. The same shrink, by the way. I would never change. But the show does scare me a little bit because it makes me wonder, does my shrink go to therapy? And what's his private life like? And, I've been here 20 years. Like, does he need shrinking for himself? Is he getting it? I guess that's one of my big takeaways from the show is that shrinks need shrinking too.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally. I think that what the show does so cleverly is every scene is who's on the couch. I always think who's on the couch in this scene, because sometimes, I play a lawyer. Sometimes I'm on the couch. Sometimes they're on the couch with me, like sometimes I'm giving Harrison Ford advice about stuff. And then sometimes they're on the couch for each other, and whether they like it or not. Harrison's character very begrudgingly takes advice from anybody because he's cranky, and Jason's character is coming out of this fog of grief, really just starting the process of grieving. And so it is interesting to see like, these therapists are messed up, and are my therapists that way too? But it's funny. I've seen people on social media attack the show, saying this isn't ethical. This behavior of a shrink isn't ethical. And it's like, well, no, that's why it's on television. That's where that's called conflict.
Yeah, but you think about, you talk about therapists needing therapists. You watch like In Treatment, and Gabriel Byrne had a therapist, and The Sopranos. Malfi had a therapist.
Dr. Malfi, of course, he did.
And I think maybe in some ways it shows that in order to do, you have to have been maybe And it's interesting because years ago a friend of mine was living in New York. She was an actress, comedian friend of mine. And I needed a therapist, and she had recommended her therapist to me. And I thought to myself, do I want to have the therapist that she has? Because I didn't feel that she had really grown a lot. And I was thinking, if this is the work that represents this therapist, I don't know if I want to go. But then I thought maybe she just wasn't doing the work, and it wasn't the therapist's fault. But, But I didn't. I went to the therapist once, and then I never went to her again.
The Yelp reviews weren't good.
my Yelp review was not good. This was way before Yelp.
But it's an elephant in the room. It's like, so how's Sue doing? Have you seen Sue lately?
So a couple of people in the cast and the ensemble are so. Harrison Ford and Jason Segel. Harrison Ford is that crusty, he's dry and he's funny, he's sarcastic, he's all that stuff. And he's so killing it at the age of 80 years old. It's amazing that performance, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And what a year. He's on like so many TV shows. He's Indiana Jones again. He's now a Marvel guy. He's got so much going on. He just won the Palme d'Or. Like, he's just on fire. And this character, he kind of, we've seen it for years in the press when he does interviews. He's kind of likes this crusty, crotchety persona.
Yeah.
And he loves doing it on set. Like I can say that on set, he's like he likes to do that, but he's actually really sweet and like really wants to make everyone laugh, and like he loves a joke at his expense. It's really all an act. I mean, it's just this sort of like crusty act
Yeah.
that he puts on, and it's just this character fits him like a glove. It's so funny, but he's also he's in touch with something that I mean, I've seen him do heartfelt, deep stuff before, but the swinging back and forth like this, I've seen it be funny. You know, people were like, gosh, can he be funny? And I'm like, of course he can be funny. Han Solo is funny. Indiana Jones is funny. Of course he can be funny. And, you know, of course he can be serious. We've seen him, you know, save the world. We've seen him like battle terrorists. And, you know, we've seen these sides of him, but this is the first time I've ever seen them at the same time, where he can be so funny and then rip your heart out. I mean, the scene where he's stoned at my engagement party, in episode, I think it's 6 or 7, is maybe the funniest stoned acting I've ever seen. And then the scene where, you know, the scenes with his daughter are so very heartbreaking, and with him coming to terms with his Parkinson's, and it's really like really heartbreaking, and he bounces back and forth effortlessly in this show. I think that's the thing that I think people are responding to when they see this performance is his dexterity to go back and forth like that.
Well,
You know what?
listen. Oh, go ahead, Sue.
What I didn't realize until I started to do a little bit of research on the series, which was yesterday, basically.
Yeah.
That Harrison Ford's character is based on Jonah Hill's therapist, Phil Stutz.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And he had Parkinson's.
Yeah, that's right. That's where they got it. And the tools, the stuff that Jason's discovering, you know, as he becomes unorthodox in his practice, because he's hit rock bottom and now he just wants to tell his patients what to do. That's all based on that Stutz method.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Well, listen, Shrinking is totally fantastic. You are great in it. I've been reading a lot of like Emmy shortlists and stuff, and you're on a lot of those. So congratulations on that.
Wow.
And
Probably the longer short lists.
No, and congratulations on the show. Season 1 of Shrinking, now streaming on Apple Plus. Michael, thanks a lot for doing this, man. We appreciate it.
That's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. It was lovely talking to you.
And there he is, Michael Urie. If you've not seen Shrinking, it is really, really funny. Sue, are you in therapy now?
I'm not.
Oh, I am. I have a psychiatrist and a psychologist.
I think you'll probably always be in therapy.
There's no question I will.
Do you think that you're afraid if you stop going to therapy that it like everything just collapses in your life?
Well, can I be honest? I mean, my shrink is prescribing me, psych drugs. So I never want to stop taking my meds. Right. So seeing him is a reminder of that. But yeah, I'm always, honestly, when somebody says they're not in therapy, I really start to wonder about them. I'm like,
You wonder about me?
You're not in therapy. What does that say about you?
You are not working on yourself.
You are not. Well, that was great, and it is a great show. Shrinking is on Apple Plus. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the Culture Pop Podcast in 3 ways now. You can get us on Apple, you can get us on Spotify, and you can get us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com and search Culture Pop Podcast, and we will pop right up. You can see the pretty pictures that go with the words. And subscribe to the channel too. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Sue, great seeing you. Thanks very much. And we will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.